Right. John, you're all set?
I show the time as 5 o'clock. We'll call the March 26th meeting of the Communications Committee to order. Let's see, present. Why don't you just go around the room and say who you are so that who knows everybody?
John Anderson, Scott Darby,
Don Cushing,
Allison Carrier.
Liam Gallagher.
very good. Item number 3 is public comment. Is anybody online? Nobody here. Close public comment. Minutes of the January 16th meeting. Motion approved.
second.
All in favor?
I abstain. I wasn't here.
I
think
didn't read.
Yeah.
Let's go to 2 and motion passes. Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'm not even sure. Staff discussion and consideration, staff updates, yes. Let's do staff updates.
Yep, just have a couple to cover. So right now, the focus in this past week has been on the budget and getting a budget and brief together, getting the documents all together and in a kind of upgraded format from years past. So that's really been the high level, and moving forward after the presentation tonight, it's gonna switch into sharing out the breakdown of pieces of the budget to the community like we've done in years past, so. We'll be working on building out that calendar and seeing what that content looks like.
Can I just interrupt?
Yep,
I got a preview right before this meeting to see, and I guess we'll all see it in an hour, but you did an awesome job making the budget more readable, user-friendly, and the little pamphlet thing that Liam shared with me is really awesome. So
great, thank you. Yeah, it feels a lot more cohesive now, and we've spent a lot of time looking at other municipalities and what they have and trying to kind of make sure that we're in line with that. And I think the budget in brief is gonna be really helpful for people who might want to learn about the budget without having to dive into the full 400-page document. So,
you're gonna be pleased on, I think.
Well, it's a mystery to me.
Yeah.
Put in a fair amount of time on it
Yeah.
and it's been crickets ever since, so.
Well,
and,
1 hour,
we'll
your
see.
your
Yeah.
dreams will come true.
well, it's been a helpful exercise too, and
Hope so, because it'd be awfully unpleasant if they don't. Okay,
it's been helpful too in bridging that gap between, the annual report has a lot of really interesting metrics in it from each department that doesn't really get shared out more broadly. So this is a good way of being able to weave in what each department is doing and being able to do those highlights too. So that was something that had come from council and Councilor Cushing, so. We're gonna talk through about the leader changes, but that's something that's been on our plate and being sharing out to the community and ways that we can try to get people to sign up for the town newsletter in the absence of the print leader. And next week, I know April met with Mark Stoddard, the on the board of the
Yes.
TLN, yeah, so April met with him a couple weeks ago, and Liam and I will be meeting with him next week. To talk about ways, just to talk about ways we can fill that gap or where there's areas of meeting the needs of the loss of the print.
If I could, so, one thing that, just on the leader subject, so, recognizing when they, were doing away with their print version, we saw as an opportunity to print some last minute ads, really encouraging people to enroll in the town newsletter. So, the edition 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Had a half-page ad, encouraging people to sign up for the newsletters. This is what, I don't know if you saw it in the leader. But that was one, and then there will be one going in this week's edition.
Just the one
Again,
next door.
which is the last one, again, encouraging people to do that.
Have we seen an uptick in,
Yeah, so I have metrics at the bottom here, but in March, we've had 79 new subscribers, and it's a lot higher than we normally get in just a few weeks. So I am correlating that to the ads and then also just the announcement about the leader, so. Yeah, and then also we did do an update, a mention in our newsletter, the last newsletter about the leader. Going out of print and digital only, and that had the most clicks of the newsletter. So people were paying attention and saw that piece of it.
do you have any, who did April talk to?
His name's Mark Stoddard. You could-
Yeah, he's chair of the board. He's been meeting with all sorts of folks in the
The chair is
communities
the chair of the board.
of Maine Trust for Local News.
And is the leader part of that?
Yes, yes.
So it's a conglomerate that owns just about every newspaper it seems in Maine at this point.
Yeah, pretty much most of them. Bangor Daily News is the big one that's still independent. But yeah, we're
Press Herald, Sun Journal.
Press Herald, Sun Journal, yeah.
do they own, or the group that does the Gorham Weekly?
They do not, or weekly, it's a independent publication.
Would the Gorham Times then? I know there's 2 Gorham papers.
I don't think
One of them is
so.
independent.
Yeah, one of them is.
We have the American Journal that covers them. and
Okay.
what's been doing with them, so.
Couple more updates, just continuing that we've been covering what the school building advisory committee has been working on and have that good relationship of being able to share it in the newsletter. And then what seems to be of interest to people right now are beaches and just that the passes are available soon and the rules, dog rules going into effect in May, so. Looking ahead, I'm gonna be talking more about that and then doing more human interest stories as people are interested in those.
Complaints from out of towners on the $20 fee.
Not that I've seen, I think that would be more directed towards you all. But nothing that's come my way.
Comments or-
I've had one.
No, I haven't seen anything on social media. And then we just have this continuing conversation of trying to weave in messages around the community survey, the comprehensive plan. And what the council goals are, and so anytime there's a bigger topic that we'll be sharing, we have that in mind of being able to carry on that message. As far as metrics, I covered that, yeah, we got a lot more subscribers since the push towards the newsletter in the past few weeks. And I sent a board and committee newsletter last week. That's something I've been sending in March, July, and November, just to keep the cadence. And yeah, the top clicked from the last newsletter was the leader update. The information about beaches, just linking to the beach page of the website, and then the vulnerability assessment flooding dashboard was just announced, and so it's its own website, and so I linked people to that, and that had a lot of interest too.
Questions?
Are,
Do we go back to that slide?
no, I think we're just looking at the agenda. Go ahead.
All set?
Mhm.
So moving on to item 6, discussion of the loss of the print version of the Scarlet Leader and its implications for town communication. Point of question, Drew, are you here as a participant, as a reporter? What is your role in today's meeting?
I'm here to answer any questions y'all have. Yeah, I'll answer the ones I can, and I'll jot down the ones I can and get you answers.
Okay, well, the first I heard of this was April made some mention of it at the town meeting. And I've heard nothing since, so I appreciate any of you who have any insight into what's happening with the leader to feel free to give me an update.
Yeah, so essentially, yeah, the leader is stopping publication. The reasoning simply is it's a business, a free newspaper that relies solely on print advertising. It's very hard to sustain in 2025. And yeah, a lot of our papers are being cut, a lot of the weekly ones, and we're just moving to digital and pushing hard on the digital side, trying to bring along as many readers as we possibly can, both for the benefit of business and also just the mutual goal of keeping people informed, which is my main focus. So yeah, that's kind of the reason in a nutshell.
What's the general voltage drop in terms of readership when we go from here it is on your kitchen table to log in and read it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're gonna see, we're gonna have to
There's
see.
no metrics, no, no historical information that would give you some idea. I'm sure we're not the first local paper to go digi.
Not that I have, no.
Do you know which? I'm assuming Portland Press Herald is still gonna print. Are there others that are still gonna be in print?
Yeah, all the daily ones, so Press Herald, Sun Journal, those ones will be in print still. There's a few of our papers that right now print like 2 or 3 times a week. They'll go down to 1 time a week. So it's a big kind of revolution throughout the whole Maine Trust for Local News. There seems to be something happening with every paper.
Yeah.
So.
Are you guys, like, people who will advertise today, are they gonna just get online advertisements, or like, how's that gonna work?
Yeah, I had actually asked that question of my supervisor. Essentially, so we have the e-paper product is the big thing they're gonna be pushing now. There may be opportunities in there to do it, but for right now, it's kind of just direct to the Press Herald.
What is the e-paper product?
So I mean, I can actually show you if you like. I can move my computer around. Let me just bring it up, cause we have one right now for the Leader in all of our newspapers.
Cause it's just like when, on your online post, when you kind of, it looks like you post the front page.
Yes, so
If you want to plug in, Drew, you can project.
sure,
it.
I don't have that kind of cord.
Oh, you don't. Okay.
But essentially, let me show it briefly. It's this, so it looks exactly like the newspaper. If I can navigate.
Yeah, I have that as part of my personal subscription.
Yeah, you can go through the pages. It reads essentially just like a newspaper, but electronic format. Obviously doesn't replace it, but you get the same look and feel as if you were flipping through a newspaper.
You see, actually printing the paper, but then photoing it,
Yeah, it's
that's what it looks like.
yeah, it's essentially that, but without the physically printing it.
And mass producing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so you print one instead of thousands.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. It takes a lot less manpower to do as a result. It's a numbers game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, John, do you have any, was April's conversation?
I don't know, I didn't ask her
Informative,
about it.
no insight,
Do you guys
no
know?
insight into that.
Not beyond what Drew's essentially shared, so your electronic reach is expected to be about 10,000 in Scarborough, South Portland, and Cape.
For the email newsletter we have, yes.
Okay.
As far as our articles posted online go, they're a lot of the time mine are elevated to the front page website of the Press Herald.
Mhm.
And they can be seen in the Press Herald in print still.
Mhm.
And they're gonna be pushing that more now, knowing our print products are lost. The Press Herald's gonna be printing a lot more of our work.
How many households, does the Leader go to now in Scarborough?
I do not know the number. I'm pretty much told that it's mailed to
Yeah.
every resident, so
Yeah.
unless someone asks it to stop, I suppose. Then we'd be getting it.
8,000 or something?
10,000? I mean, assuming like apartments and stuff too.
Okay. Yeah. So, big hit. Any thoughts on what this council ought to do about it?
I'm curious if you guys have put in any extra money in the budget for communications for print.
We did increase, we have a proposed to increase our public engagement budget about threefold, but still is about $7,500. Maybe that's an item that as we go through the process, we can look at. Bolstering, we had obviously talked about doing a biannual mailer, which would include a lot of our newsletter content, and the goal there would be to go in print to every household in town. The cost for doing one of those is about $10,000 is what we priced out, so it's pretty expensive. But whether there's a value to get those kind of passive consumers of news and what's the cost of that, I think that's probably a conversation for a future committee meeting.
I think it would be, I mean, I would advise we figure out how to invest, like, make sure that there's money to do something. Maybe we don't know what the something is, but 7,500 doesn't feel like a lot.
And that's why we did this ad campaign to try to generate the electronic interest in our newsletter, because that's where the
Yeah.
news is and it's free, right?
Yeah, it's the best one.
In some respects, communications mindset question. It's intangible. And yet we see it in virtually every aspect of what we do, whether we're buying a car or, trying to figure out when the basketball team is. It's been my experience in our town that ineffective communication has been very, very costly. Some of that has been plain old lack of it, and others of it has been in the focus of content. So, for example, I'm not going to give examples because you all know roughly what they are. And so when you think about the cost of putting something in someone's mailbox where you control the narrative, it's your story, it's basically explaining positions to allow people to be informed and perhaps less influenced by other newsletters in town. Then there's a dollars and cents component to that. And in terms of having to go back to ballot initiatives and so forth. And on the flip side of that, there are examples where close votes on the land bond and other types of things. So my comment is that the first question should be, what effect do we want to have? And the second question ought to be, how much will it cost? And the third question should be, can we afford it? That's, and the fourth question might be, can we afford not to do it? So those are my thoughts. I guess the other thought that is that the council as a body and other governmental bodies could be in the position to provide seed money for an independent publication. And the infrastructure for these things is newsprint, a laptop with Adobe InDesign on it, and people like the big piece is people like Drew, Alice, and others to generate the content. But those fixed costs are easily spread over as big an end as you can get. And my sense of it, I'll get off my speech in a minute, but my sense of it here is that you could take the current issue of the leader, you could take a ruler and you could count up how many column inches of advertising there are in that leader. And then you could look at the rate sheet and you could understand exactly what the current advertising revenues are of the leader. And if you know that number, then you have some sense of what a baseline might be if you thought that Hannaford Brothers and the car dealers and the other people who advertise there might be interested in moving over. So those are my comments. I guess that would be up for the, I'm not sure if this group wants to do anything along those lines. Do we want to make a recommendation to the full council? Is there anything we should do?
I still would really like somebody to reach out to the Gorham Weekly or Times, whichever one is the independent one, because Don, maybe some of this is like, we don't have to recreate the wheel if they've got the infrastructure. Like, what would it take for Scar Road to piggyback off of what they're doing? And what would the cost have to be for us to participate and bring those advertisers over? Like, I feel like they've got something going that we could replicate without, but I don't know what it takes to replicate or if they're even willing to partner. So I feel like that would be interesting to explore. I do worry about the school project, and do we have enough money in this budget that would allow for some sort of mailer from the town, because it is the biggest bond question that we'll be asking. And as much as I think people like, or like, I find doing digital, but like, I know there's a lot of people in town who won't know anything unless they come through their mail, and I feel like we have to, with a question that big, make sure that we're getting something in their mailbox that maybe again leads them to the online stuff, but like, some people need that tangible thing, and I think I want to make sure we have money in the budget to actually get information in voters' hands.
Suppose that'll happen over the next few weeks.
Yeah, where again, we can look at the budget. I mean, that's what I think would be interesting, Don, if we knew what investment Gorham needs, then that could be a line item we add in the budget process at the end if we wanted to go that path, or at least explore it so that we have the option to do with funding.
Yeah, you know, honestly, I started down that path myself. I looked at their masthead on the people and so forth, and then I bounced it off in some hallway conversations and to get instructions. So I just sort of let them know what was before this.
Yeah,
And that was really based around the fact that with all due respect, we wish for more coverage of stuff. So anyway. I'm not sure I would get out that road personally, but I'll let you. Okay, any more discussion on this point?
So what are our next steps?
I think that your suggestion that the town management do some analysis, understanding what needs to happen to make up the loss of the leader in terms of communication on critical issues, and to make some budgetary accommodations. So, and again, I think important with respect to the role of this committee, with respect to the town side, has the power of suggestion. So I would say we're suggesting strongly that that happen, and hopefully will. Okay. Then I think that the council itself should vote to authorize someone to go talk to the goal people who are. And I say that because any individual, any single one of us is purely representing ourselves. I have no authority to talk to them and say, hey, I can go in myself and say, hey, I love to start a newspaper in town, and you know, you want to, are you willing to do that? But in terms of a representative of the town in any way, shape, or form, I don't feel like I have the authority or the mandate to do that. So I would say is that maybe we should have a workshop, and the town council ought to vote on what they want to do about it. Because we've seen the inverse of that happen, is we do some stuff, and then it gets up there, it kind of gets more.
I feel like, to me, the best course of action would be for staff to do some, like what you said, do some research, find some options. Option A could be what happens if we do, instead of biannual paper mailers, maybe we do it 6 times a year. And that looks like this. And then if we want to make a mirror what's happening at the Gorham Times or weekly, that would look like this. If there's some other idea, I think giving us options maybe, and then bringing it to council and saying, these are investment, it's really an investment decision and paper communication. What are we going to do? And what makes sense and what's reasonable.
Well, we certainly can do some research on those components and bring some thoughts back. I might suggest that we have this as an agenda item for the next meeting, at least an update on what that looks like. You know, I understand that there's some pressure with the budget developing, that if we're going to dedicate resources, and I don't think they'd be insignificant, even if we were able to, you know, I think the thought I had was, you know, can we sell ad space in a mailer that goes to every home to offset some of those costs? You know, I don't know what that looks like, but you know, even if we were to have that cost, you know, to do a mailer 6 times a year, I mean, you're looking at $30,000. So again, that's a mailer component. It's not piggybacking on some existing newspaper infrastructure and possibly running a periodical. We will try to explore that and bring an update back to the committee. But the time is of the essence if you're gonna put some budget resources behind
Will
it.
we meet before? No, yeah, we will meet one more time before our second reading for budget, so if we meet in April,
Mhm.
so we can look at it in April.
Sure.
And we don't, well, we could put it to the full council as the finance committee. We could just vote to add it to the budget as the finance committee and then bring it to council when we bring the second budget. So I feel like we have time. I think the question is the research you guys, in the next month, will you guys be able to come forward with some options?
Assessment.
Mhm.
Okay. Item number 7, emergency communication protocol. Do we have one?
Are you speaking in reference to an incident that goes on in a municipal incident, or are you talking, I guess, for some
No.
context?
School shooting, that's casualty events.
Mhm.
Major pileup on Route 1, earthquake, pick one.
So Deputy Chief John Brennan, he serves as the town's PIO, Public Information Officer, and so he's the one that facilitates any immediate communications out to media, many media releases after any sort of incident. The Wentworth School incident that happened a couple weeks ago, he was the one who facilitated the chain of events that followed. Him and I have talked about developing a more formal protocol or policy that we follow, but there isn't one like that
Right.
yet.
And you recall, a year ago, we talked about some of those kinds of things at this meeting, didn't get any traction, so. This is my item, I'll just be quick about it. No government official should learn about a significant event, which is termed a mass casualty, by reading about it in the local news and then following up with information on a press conference. It is not hard to have a email list, to have a phone list, a text list, or any other thing, which might help a council member who receives a call from somebody who is concerned to not look like they have their head up their butt. So, sorry, public. Okay. So that angered me. And we had our usual love fest at the town meeting and everything was fine. And frankly, I have a great deal of respect for all of our people who responded to that incident, who dealt with it. We were very lucky. But you only have to go 45 miles up the street to understand that this is serious business, and the elected officials of this town need to be involved and engaged at the onset.
So I don't fully agree with that. I actually think this handle was appropriate, because what am I gonna do? I want the communication to get out to the public. I consider myself as part of the public. I don't need special communications. I do think an email from Tom that would have been like, heads up, this is underway. But again, the most important thing when those emergency events are happening is that they're getting addressed. And I know that there's,
I'd like to know before the
Stop.
press conference. It seems to me that when you have time to have the press conference, you have time to prepare for the press conference and so forth. I don't need somebody to dial me from the fire truck.
did you know from before the press conference that there was an incident?
No, I saw it on my iPhone in the national news.
So nobody, I mean, how I got it was through the Wentworth. Because I'm a parent, so I got it from
Right.
Wentworth, so I knew immediately that something was going on, but I didn't
Well,
even,
so first I heard the sirens.
Yeah.
But when I hear sirens, it just means that Piper Shores has a vacancy.
Mm.
And so that's all day
Mhm.
long going down Black Point Road. And so I didn't think anything of it. And then I picked up my phone to do something else. And I looked at my, Apple News, and there it was, mass casualty event in Scotland.
Mhm.
And, now, so, I mean, I guess in the category of the prerogative of the chair, I'm just expressing
Mhm.
my opinion. And it would seem to me that if the town had a protocol that said, we'll let you know someday if that's the stated position of the town, then let's put it out there. Okay, let's make it policy that you'll be the last to know.
Mhm.
I think it's an appropriate question to ask. I think it's a conversation that we have picked up and put down a few times over, probably since the Lewiston incident. I will say, as just a matter of practice, certainly I think Tom and I have, anytime there's an issue that we think might get some public traction, I think there was a story on our general assistance program last month. And before that went anywhere, I think we sent out an email to the town council availing you of, there might be an issue and here's some of the background and here's what our statement is. I don't know if that, but there was a story, and so I think we do try, just as a matter of common sense, to inform the council anytime. Is that codified in a policy? No, it's not. Should it be? Probably. And so we're happy to bring that up and look at what our protocol should be.
Is this something that the district-wide emergency?
I think it's really more administration, and Allison's exactly right. I mean, John, Deputy Chief Brennan really is our PIO. He's received some pretty decent training over his career, specifically in the city of Portland, that he brought with him. And I know that they've gone through some training together in that regard. So I think it's a question we should have a good answer for. Councilor Cushion.
Well, Don, what would you like what would you like to see in there?
I think that sometime during the incident, an appropriate time, ideally before we are talking to the press, a sit rep. This happened, it's moving along, we'll keep you posted. Thank you. That takes, I'm not looking for a whole briefing, but to say, and then what happens if on a very cold day, I get a call from a constituent who says, what's going on here? I can say, the town manager is maybe aware of it. The situation is evolving and so forth. And if you'd like, I can call you back when I get more information. Yeah. Okay. It's as simple as that. On the theory that the 7 people who sit on this body actually have people who look to them for information, reassurance, that sort of thing.
The news media didn't even cover it. I didn't know what happened, so I had to wait till next town council meeting, and I asked them, what happened there? Did they figure out what was going on? Why did they? It was just, they just passed out and fainted. It wasn't, any gas leaks or anything like that, or nothing. It was just, and they said it was almost a sympathy thing. Once one went, it's almost like when one kid starts throwing up, then the sibling does too,
Well, I think that's the hard part in this case, like, they know what didn't cause it. But they can't tell you what caused it, even that, like, it's,
Right.
That's what we assume happened, and
Yeah.
it makes sense, but like, nobody can defend.
But that's the only thing they could come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know for sure.
So I think in practice, we've been better about that than we haven't been. But again, having that reflected in policy, so everyone has an expectation of what that notification will look like.
And remember that Chief Brennan's orientation correctly is to be focused on the situation, to be providing people who need to know information, to be dealing with the press and so on and so forth. So I have no expectation that I should be on his speed dial.
I fully appreciate that. You're again, I think whether it's myself or Tom, getting an email to the council when there's a developing situation and giving you at least what is known at this point.
To contact you.
Tom is made aware, Tom and myself generally made aware of any sort of significant incidents. And again, I think historically, this was a pretty significant event, which I think happened very quickly. But I think in general, we're very good about apprising the council of anything that's going to get any public traction well in advance of when it actually does. That's not reflected in policy, so that's the ask. I understand that.
All right, any further discussion on that point?
Nope.
Okay, now on to the most important issue. Liam, at the last meeting, he fell on the sword, volunteered to help us create this reusable structure. People.
We skipped item 8.
Council Corner.
Oh, did I skip council corner? What is the matter? Oh, council corner themes of assignments. Yeah, Scott, you are the last one on the current list to write something for the soon-to-be extinct newspaper and newsletter. And I believe your topic was
Scott and I sat down this morning and had a conversation, so we're gonna,
Okay,
Come
so
up
you're
with-
gonna talk about fishes and clams and growth on the beach. I'm surprised you want so many people down there on your beach.
Oh, I like the people. It's great, kids have fun, yeah. No, we talked about, you know, I guess it was about the town and the council and the things, items coming up, you know, for us to make decisions on, so we talked and talked about, yeah. We talked about this issue.
so he's covered for April 1st, and then, yeah, after that, we don't have.
After that,
anyone.
we have a rotation, it's either Cushing, Anderson, Shoup, Fellows, Donovan, and Doherty. And we had some conversation, I think that the budget is probably most important in the next two, maybe three. And so I think that I'd like to remove myself from that portion of the rotation and go further down the list, maybe just flip into the last spot. And then that John will leave you like in April to say what you will about the budget.
Okay. So April, I mean, I can go on the 15th.
So if you want to do so,
April 1st and then 15th, and
Yeah.
April could do the May 1st.
so you've got that. So Cushing is going to follow Doherty, and Anderson is going to take Seiler's place, and Seiler will take Cushing's place.
Mhm.
Who's on first? Okay. And as far as topics go after that, I'm almost inclined to say, let's see what happens.
I think we have some meaty workshops coming up. Transportation, housing. The school project is the next meeting, so I think. Honestly, each of those could be a. Article, because there's some pretty cool stuff happening in them, I think.
All right, I'm done with that. And last but not least, the public outreach plan.
So we have given this some thought internally. I think where we see some opportunities for the council to establish some relationships would be around some of the community groups. I know I've been part of other municipalities where they actually have a council liaison to the Rotary, a council liaison to the Lions Club, council liaison to the, obviously we have one for the Chamber and Sedco. But I think that there's a real opportunity to have standing updates with those organizations, and might suggest the council consider that. I think that this was really within the context of the budget, Don, that's my recollection of this conversation. And so identifying spaces, the spaces that we have historically utilized for things like roundtable discussions, or, kind of open office hours. Generally, we have them on the municipal campus or in our municipal fire stations or the library. I know that there is, again, in the last discussion, we kind of talked about whether there would be more specific neighborhood outreach. Again, a lot of that can happen through our firehouses. I've spoken with the fire chief. That is a space that can be productive depending on the station. The organization, so we put together or Allison put together an inventory of those various associations or neighborhoods or organizations within Scarborough. And I think that we're ready to make outreach to those organizations if that's something that council has interest in, and trying to have some regular outreach to those groups. Again, Hillcrest was another one that through the revaluation, I think there's a lot of success with that conversation. And in actually our old public engagement and noticing manual, we do have a repository of available spaces, what the capacity is, whether they have tables and chairs readily available, and again, some identification of what those spaces are. So I know we've replaced a lot of the content, or at least some of the content from the old public engagement noticing manual, and worked it into a different communications policy and guide, but this still stands and I think is still largely relevant. I think it's really a question from this committee and the larger council. What would you like that what would you like that sort of additional engagement to look like? And I think those are sort of our initial thoughts. So, typically with, in the context of budget, we've had years where we have come through brought a standard slide deck to those meetings to sort of say, here's a brief budget presentation. I think our budget and brief guide this year will really serve that purpose to give some people some foundational information. I'll be honest that, I think every year since I've been in this position, so the last 5 years, we've done some component or some opportunity for roundtable budget discussions, and it's sort of, and I know Councillor Cushing, you sort of lamented seeing the same sort of 4 or 5 faces every year, or every meeting on whatever the issue is. I think that's really largely been our experience. So how to generate additional interest and do more of those meetings, I think has been a challenge.
Well, maybe the answer is take the hint. Don't invest the time. I mean,
Well-
I'm not being facetious. I'm sort of saying, you're saying year after year after year, we go through the exercise of sitting in an empty room with one or two people. Then maybe, I'd be happy to spend a half an hour one-on-one on the telephone. Everybody who wanted to call me and ask me what my take is on the budget or answer any particular questions. And I've made that very offer in the Scarborough Leader, going to 10,000 households and read by most people. And the number of calls I have received has been none. And, unlike some of my other colleagues on the council, I do not have kids in the school anymore. They're all grown up. They don't live in my basement. They have families of their own. And so I don't go to the school, these sorts of things. So in many respects, I will go with any luck tonight to the sushi bar, and I will visit with my constituents there. And so you follow, you understand what I'm saying is that,
Yeah,
I just have to change a heart and say, the town of Scarborough, I'm not really sure that you are all that interested. And
I like to think it's because we're doing a good job.
that, yeah,
So they don't-
we must be doing, we're doing a perfect job. The budget is
Yeah.
perfect all the time. And, I don't know, as long as we're not building a trucking terminal in your backyard, everything's good.
I actually think the thing that I've found to be most helpful is when there's like big events and having a table there for the council. Cause that tends to be where people are, like I think of Summerfest and the sustainability thing and like, I think anytime we want them to come to us for whatever reason, I think you're right, I think it's just
They don't,
they don't come, so if we have a presence somewhere where they happen to be, because there's a drawing or a big crowd. Maybe that's what we need to focus on, is making sure that we always have a table there, that there's always a counselor there. There was something recently that I was like, it was after the fact, I can't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, we should have had a table there. Or like whenever I go to these, like even going to like a football game on a Friday night,
Sporting events, I think,
And
it can
set
draw
up
a
a
huge
table.
crowd. If you have a table outside
yeah,
in the entryway, I think you'll have hundreds of people, your constituents pass by you. And
yeah,
they might be interested in what what the issues are.
I'm happy to just like make a table with you and like we'll go around town. And just sit there, we can watch the game and people can come talk to us if they want to, but like,
I think on the budget, I guess what I'd say on the budget roundtable is I do think it's important to provide an opportunity for
Mhm.
people to come and have their questions asked and answered and have their voices heard outside of 3-minute public comment window. And so I think what we've done in years past to try to minimize the impact on all of your time is to try to have those roundtable events piggyback on or precede existing meetings, and we publicize those.
so why wouldn't we, how many council meetings are happening between now and budget vote? 2, 1,
3.
3?
3 before the second read.
Right before the second
You know,
reading.
the first meeting in April,
Right.
the second meeting in April.
Yeah.
First one.
So why not devote 15, 20 minutes of public comment to focus questions on the budget?
That's an option.
That's
Basically,
a great idea.
basically, put it on the agenda, say, if you've got a question, you can come in, you don't have to testify, if you wanna write it down and
Mhm.
hand it up.
I think you could even say, I know that we often have workshops preceding the regular council meeting, but if you wanted to back that up 30 minutes beforehand, say it's a open question and answer and have a counselor who's gonna show up at 5. That's town hall is still open till that. If they wanna go back and ask some questions or express some concern, get some information, I think that that's another thing that's not a huge lift. It makes for a bit of a longer night, but
And I don't know, but I like that, it's not just for the budget, it could be like, we're gonna do office hours with the counselor, where everybody. For each meeting commits to come half an hour early and. if
And
people wanna
I have
talk-
no problem having that be a part, it's always been a part, these roundtables have generally always been a partnership with staff. So either myself or Tom or the finance director, along with a counselor and a school and a board of education member. Sit there and they're available to take questions. And so I think that would be a very worthwhile kind of low ask to provide that opportunity.
The one thing, though, Jillian is trying, like, the board does wanna do roundtables, so I have dates. That they had suggested. I mean, if we wanted to, we could say, yeah, let's do these 3 dates, but maybe let's go somewhere different, instead of doing council chambers, let's. Pick 3 places that are different, maybe one is in council chambers, cause it's central, but. We wanted to try and go to Pleasant Hill. Just to see if, like, I mean, the hypothesis is that we're not gonna draw
I
people.
have a
but-
thought, you go, and if there are 10 people in the room, call me and I'll drive up.
I'm happy to do that, cause I do think giving them the opportunity is important. But I also like the idea of, the next 3, maybe not the next one, or I guess next week, the next 3 will do. Be there 30 minutes early if people wanna talk.
And you put a sign on the door that says, FY 26 budget questions, go see someone in council chambers.
Yeah.
And set you up with a table. I mean,
Mhm.
I certainly, we've never been adverse to providing opportunities for people to come forward and answer questions, and we welcome that engagement. It's kind of fits and starts, and so. And a lot of the feedback and questions people have had, we've really tried to update our budget documents and our resources and our website, our communications to address those concerns and questions out of the gate, so. I don't want to stifle the idea or say that it's not, because I think it isn't important to at least offer the opportunity, even if it's not taken. And I'd never advocate for, well, no one ever really shows up, so we're just gonna stop doing it.
Yeah.
That's not my position.
So for these roundtables for the board, should I just get back to them and say, we'll do them and. I mean, if you don't have a preference, Don, I'm fine, just keeping it simple and saying we keep it at council chambers.
I mean, I think that. If. One of the things that I notice about public comment. Which I'm sure is frustrating to commenters, even though they know rules. Is that we all sit up there like the 7 sphinxes and they make their comment and we nod their head and then they go on to the next thing. It seems to me that to switch it and to say, let's have public questions. So basically for 15 or 20 minutes, take them in the round, no filibustering. People can come and ask a budget specific question during public comment. And I don't think that we will, violate the Constitution by determining the general topics that we think it's important to focus on in the same way that we say, if you got a general comment, you do it now, if you're commenting here. And so that would be fitting when you're talking about the budget. And the point is not to come in and tell us what you think, come in and ask a question. And to my mind, is what we are really trying to encourage is to have people explain it, have people say, I read the budget. And I don't understand why you're spending this much money on this. Would you please explain?
So if they're not, I mean, that's essentially what we're asking them to do for these roundtables, so if they're not coming to those. Why would why would they do it here?
They probably wouldn't. That's my point.
Yeah, well, that's why I like the idea of being like,
But at least we're all here.
yeah,
And
everybody's there to hear.
You know, I think, you know, we're completely open to supporting whatever the will of this committee is for council. Those are just some previous experiences, but I do think it's important to offer it. And my last comment is, when there has been an engaged attendance, there are some really good conversations that come out.
Yeah.
And some really, and I think people generally leave feeling better because, one, they had the opportunity to ask questions and be heard. And I think they come away being more informed, which is the whole point of it. So,
My prediction this year, especially for the budget, is I don't think it's gonna be controversial, but it's gonna draw people to wanna talk about the budget. Based on what I saw at the school and what I think we're gonna hear tonight, like it's pretty minimal. At least on the school side, it's just the biggest budget driver, and that's what people actually vote on, so. I don't see it being a huge topic that will draw people, like sometimes when we want people to come, it's usually when it's a provocative topic or something that. People wanna talk about, this is just,
Close.
yeah, well, actually.
reval.
The stuff that, you know, I'm sure you're seeing maybe some of the online chatter, or it's been talked about revisiting dogs on the beach. And that ordinance, which again was a huge thing a couple of years ago before I was on council, and like. Even just like the notion that it's being reviewed again is starting to get everybody. Riled up, and so that's actually a topic, if we were to say, let's meet and talk about dogs on the beach in many locations, I'm sure a lot of people would show up.
I wanted to have a resolution to make the plover the town bird.
Yeah.
That we
You have a
designate,
town bird.
that we designate people who say plover is clearly from the way.
Oh, yeah.
Or that we enact an ordinance, making the official spelling of plover, PLUVER.
Yeah.
That would draw some,
Apparently, we already have a town bird, though.
or do,
Yeah, Cody told me that when I asked
apparently
him.
it's not the one I use.
Not the plover or the plover.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a good controversy, wouldn't it? It's that we're gonna get rid of, just renaming the Gulf of Mexico. We're gonna get rid of the town bird and put the plover in its place.
So,
All right.
just for the roundtable, so is it okay if I just?
Yeah.
Confirm with Jillian the dates?
Yeah.
And I'll ask her, do we keep it at town hall for consistency, or do we wanna try? 3 different locations just to try it?
I think this, my suggestion would be just to have it at town hall. It's simple, it's centrally located, it's
Okay.
accessible, it's
We'll
safe,
just do
people know
that
where
then.
it is. We've lost some people, I think, trying to figure out where's Waldo.
Okay.
All right, first, thank you for that, Allison, for your good work. It'd be great if you could forward those 2 documents that you did to the group of us here. Drew, thank you for coming. Hope you got some good stuff.
You're covering the budget next, you know,
Yeah, no,
are you gonna let us see your title before you put it out there?
my
I'm
title.
just kidding.
The headline, yeah.
Your title is, this is an awesome budget.
Right,
Support
yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? We're out of here. Thank you very much,
Thanks for
ladies and
coming.
gentlemen.